I bought this guitar off eBay the other day, about a week ago, and some fella had it on there. He was from West Virginia, and it looked like it had some of the features that I like to start out with on these old guitars when I kind of recondition them and try to get some sound out of them. He had it listed as a late 40s or early 50s K. I believe it's a Grand Concert or something like that. I've got a small size, 3/4 size K that I fixed up back, actually the first one I ever did. And it's shaped about like this one, but it's smaller. This one is a little bit wider. It was supposed to be like 15.5 inches. And I believe that's accurate. It's about 15.5 inches there at the widest bout there, widest part of the body. Some of the features it's got on it, it's got a bound peg head. That's kind of unusual. It's got these old plastic tuner knobs which have deteriorated. It's got the small dots in it. Some of them had great big old dots in them. I'd say that's Brazilian rosewood fingerboard on it. And the fingerboard is bound. It's kind of got a weird look to it about that neck. I don't think that's original. I don't know if somebody's painted on it or what's happened, but them cutting that off with a line like that doesn't look original to me, but it may be. I don't know. And they're open back tuners on this thing. That finish doesn't look fresh, that's for sure. It's got a look like curly maple back on it and kind of a red sunburst. Finish looks pretty good. Got a little crack, looks like right in here. The neck looks to be pretty tight on it, up against the body. And there's some real fine checking on the finish. There's something I hadn't noticed. Somebody's had a pickup on it at some point. There's the evidence of it. And the top's got a white and a black and white binding on it. It's got the small sound hole, which is pretty normal for these old K's and harmonies. It measures about 3 5/8, 3 9/16 of an inch across it. And it's got that plastic lining around it. It's got the small teardrop shaped pick guard on it. And there's a couple of holes here that indicate where they probably had a sound hole pickup on it. It's got a pinless bridge on it. That looks to be Brazilian rosewood. I'm assuming that that's solid top, but it could be plywood. We'll just have to see when we get further into it. I've learned to take the braces. It's ladder braced. I've learned to take the braces out of them and re-brace them through the sound hole. But I think I'm going to take the binding off carefully on this and take the back off of it and re-brace it in that manner. We took the bridge off of this thing. Those two bolts were extremely tight, and we had to almost force that thing off there. The glue was softened up and wasn't holding anything. Those screws was what's holding the bridge in there. So we're going to heat this fingerboard up and try to take it off, completely off the neck. See what we can do with getting this neck out of this thing. It's been a few minutes and this glue's seems to be softening up pretty good. So now we got to get a couple of holes in here and get our little foam rods in there. These little tools that I use are made to take foam, cut foam with, but they sure do a good job on getting the neck out of a guitar. Alright, we've got our little jig up here. We're going to take a 1/8 drill bit and drill a little hole down in here. I'm going to drill 2 little holes down in here. Now we're going to put our little heaters down in here. Turn them on. And we'll give them a little time to generate a little heat down in there. When it gets a little warmed up, we will squirt a little water down in there to help generate some steam. Yeah, that'll do it, I believe. So now it's just a waiting game. Well, the camera wasn't on, but it came out pretty easy. Well, we're just slowly and carefully trying to take this binding off here without messing up the sides too bad. Alright, that came off there pretty clean. Well, we got this back started off here. We got a kettle of hot water here. We're dipping this knife down in it. And we're just slowly working this way around this top. Squirt a little water in there every once in a while. I think this was put together with hide glue. This is the reason that I started trying to rebrace these things through the sound hole. It's just, no matter what you do and how careful you are, it seems like it's just almost impossible to get these things apart without doing some damage. It can all be repaired, but that's just creating extra work. But we got the back off of it. Alright, here's what we've got. A ladder brace guitar with a spruce bridge plate. It took me a few minutes to realize that this thing had a pinless bridge on it and had holes in the top for bridge pins, so somebody has worked on it before, I guess. Here's some of the braces we took out of the top, part of them, and we're working on these ladder braces in the bridge plate. Got 3 of the ladder braces and the bridge plate out of it, and we got 2 more front braces and some little, I don't know, I wouldn't call them popsicle braces. That'd be a big popsicle, wouldn't it? But we're working on it. Using a little plane, little hand plane, and a chisel, and another chisel, and whatever we can find, it works. We're working on the inside of the top of this guitar, and we've already got the bridge plate and 3 of the ladder braces removed, and we're working on these 2 front braces and the little reinforcement alongside it. Here's a shot of the top after I got the braces out of it and the bridge plate out of it. Pretty well smoothed up. Of course, the new braces aren't going to go in the same place that the old ones did, except this front one. It'll be in basically the same place, but it'll be where this one's about a 1/4 inch wide. It'll be about a 1/2 inch wide. Here's my Martin template from a Dreadnought Martin guitar. The overall length of the body is pretty close to the same, maybe a 1/4 inch difference or so, but you can see the sound hole's in a pretty different place. And what I usually do is to just open the sound hole up to 4 inches and put it back toward the back a little bit further. Alright, I don't know if you can see my little mark I've got around there or not, but that's what we're shooting for. Here's a shot of us gluing the little spruce plugs into the top where the bridge pins were before, and that's kind of odd because this thing had a pinless bridge on it, but as we said before, it looks like somebody's replaced this bridge at some point, and so we're just plugging these holes and smoothing them down on the outside and inside so that we can put a new bridge and a new Martin style bridge and a Martin style bridge plate on it. Here's the one of the X braces. We're laying this out, figuring out where the bridge plate's going to come out and the bridge and so forth, and we've got this laid out here to cut the slot between these X braces. That's where we've determined that it needs to go. Makes the bridge plate come out in the right place. So that's what we're doing right now. Here's a little dry run of the clamping I'm going to do on the X braces. Well, here's a shot of the braces all glued in, clamped in there. You just kind of have to rig it up and use whatever you can find to clamp these things with, but it works. Has worked before. Well, there's the braces in here. Got to come back and clean up a little around them and round them off a little bit, but that's basically what we're going to have for some braces in this guitar when we get done. Here's a shot of the top braces after I took the clamps off of them. We're working on this back here. Some of the damage that we did in removing this thing. And we're going to try to work a little fish glue down in here between this ply of wood. This shows our clamps we've got on here, gluing one of the braces that broke. We're gluing it back on and kind of patch up these places that came loose when we heated the back and wet it and took it off there. So we didn't do as much damage as we could have, so I believe it's going to be alright. We're working on getting the back put back on the body of this guitar, and we've put 4 little pieces of masking tape here, so we've got it pretty well aligned as best we're going to be able to, and we've got these pieces of masking tape where we can get it back centered in the place that it is. And I'll show you what I've got inside of it. It's pretty tricky to take the back or the top off of a body and get it back like it's supposed to be. I've got these little props in here that I can take out after I get this thing glued on. Here's the back after I've worked on it and smoothed the braces down in it. There's some places where the linings came off, and I'm just going to glue them back. That'll kind of help put it back in the place where it was. This is a kind of a tricky part of the process. This is a little old scraping tool that I made. Let me turn this thing around. I can't remember what they call it now, but I saw Roy Underhill make one of these things on TV. And it's just a scraper that's got a holder. And I've got it set where I can go around here and clean this glue out of this slot for the binding. Well, we're putting this binding on. Use some fish glue on it. That way when we get done, we can clean the residue off and not hurt the finish. Here's a sped up version of us cutting the slot in the neck for the two-way truss rod. This neck didn't have a truss rod at all in it, so we're showing our little jig that we made. It's just a simple jig, and try to cut a slot in around the middle of the of the neck to handle this truss rod. Here's the fingerboard with a dry fit, gluing it back on. Here's a shot of the body with the binding on it. It's got some flaws and paint off in places, and I've got a place here in the front that I might have to fill in. Get a little piece of binding and fill it in, but it went back on there pretty well. It's tolerable, I guess. We've got this body up in one of our jigs here that we use to get the neck in place. It's got a clamp on it here to clamp the neck back against the body, and we got another clamp we put on the top to get it in place when we get the angle right on it. And here's my angle cutting jig I made several years ago. It's just a simple thing with a hinge on it. It's got a hinge here and an adjustment down here, and I can change the neck angle right here by turning this screw a little bit. And I've got a way of attaching the neck in it. I've shown this on some other videos. If you're interested in it, you have to go hunt it. But we start out with it lined up here and change the angle of this, and then cut it with a chisel and try to get the right angle on it. Here's a shot of the body and the neck after I got the dovetail shimmed up where it pulled up against the body, and I got it clamped in there with fish glue. I cleaned the fingerboard up. It's a mighty pretty piece of Brazilian rosewood in that fingerboard. We're working on this bridge, cleaning off underneath where the bridge is going to glue down. Smoothing it up where I put the plug in it. Here's a shot of the neck glued in and the bridge glued in. I've done a few things that I didn't film. It's going to be a pretty long video, and I don't want to lengthen it out too much, doing some things that you've probably seen before. I still got to make a truss rod cover. I've got a little K somewhere around here that's got a K shaped truss rod cover. I'm going to make one of those and put on it. And I cut this pick guard down, had to cut the sound hole down. I never did like those looks of those pick guards, but it looks pretty good on there. I think I'll just leave it. I got some tortoise shell colored pick guards, but they didn't seem like they looked that good on it. I worked on the frets a little bit and hammered down some that were high a little bit, and I made a nut for it. Made a saddle. Put some ebony bridge pins in it. Here's the finished product. All I'm going to do to it. I found a truss rod cover. Had in stock there off of K. That looks right. And the old Brazilian rosewood fingerboard turned out nice. Rosewood bridge and ebony bridge pins to put on it. And I cut the pick guard down to fit the sound hole, and I made some artificial rosette where it didn't look so plain around that sound hole. And I touched up around the sound hole edge there where I'd opened it up. I haven't done anything to these old holes where these old tuners went. They look just about as bad if you fill them as they do now. So, and I made a little piece to put in this this binding. This thing's dusty, but as I said before, we're not shooting for museum quality. Couldn't hit that mark if I had tried to, but this is the old guitar completed. I'm going to try to play a little tune on it so you can see what it sounds like. I'm not a good musician or a singer, either one, but I do the best I can. I'm going to try to demonstrate the sound of this old guitar. It's a K, I believe they call it a Grand Concert Model or something. I saw on an old catalog on the internet. I'd say it's early 50s or late 40s. It's got a Brazilian rosewood fingerboard and no truss rod in it, and real small brass frets. So I'm thinking it's early 50s or late 40s, but that doesn't matter. Sun just wouldn't shine, but today as I was struggling, the good Lord said to me, this is the last mountain you'll ever have to climb. I'm climbing that last mountain. I'll reach the end of the line, like Moses of old when he stood on Mount Nebo. This is the last mountain I'll ever have to climb. This is the last